And I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, speaking on behalf of a group of friends in defense of the Charter.
The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela has the honor to take the floor on behalf of the group of friends in defense of the Charter of the United Nations, which, from the very outset, would like to stress that its participation in today's meeting should in no way be construed as an endorsement of this informal meeting, especially taking into account that Resolution 78/222 of the General Assembly was not adopted by consensus, and furthermore, that this does not adhere to the purpose and principles enshrined in the UN Charter. In this context, we seize this opportunity to reiterate our concern about the increasing threats against the UN Charter, as well as the urgent need to defend its purposes and principles as a guarantee of peace and balance in the international order on the base of a spirit of inclusivity, respect for diversity, national sovereignty, legal equality among states, peaceful settlement of disputes, social progress, and the full achievement of human rights. Mr. President, the member states of our group of friends attaches the utmost importance to the promotion of all human rights, both individual and collective, without distinction of levels or categories, and thus considers that their promotion and protection are strengthened based on dialogue and cooperation, in accordance with the principles of impartiality, objectivity, transparency, non-selectivity, non-politicization, and non-confrontation. Thus, we reiterate our concern over the growing politicization of human rights and their weaponization against states, including some that are members of our group, in order to meddle in their internal affairs and advance dubious agendas. This is a practice that in no way responds to the true spirit of human rights. Likewise, we express our concern upon witnessing attempts to redefine human rights in an effort to categorize countries, divide the international community, ignore political, global, economic, social, and cultural diversity. In this context, we also highlight our serious concern at the proliferation of unilateral, politicized, and country-specific mechanisms that aim to conduct an impartial assessment of the human rights situations in specific states when their real intention is simply to weaponize human rights against sovereign states and national governments with the purpose of meddling in their internal affairs. This mechanism does not respond to the true spirit of human rights and does not enjoy the consent of the concerned state. These country-specific reports and resolutions are selective. They are politically motivated, they are divisive, and they weaken human rights institutions. Therefore, we call for an end to such approaches. In light of the non-consensual creation of the so-called independent institution, the member states and of this group of friends is concerned about the state of ambiguity surrounding the various aspects of this dubious institution, whether in the terms of the parameters of its mandate and terms of reference. This creates serious doubts about the real intentions of those who seek to establish it and contradicts with their claims of supporting and assisting Syria and promoting human rights. In light of this reality, we highlight the importance of cooperation, dialogue, and national ownership in every process whose real goal is to strengthen human rights, both at the national and international levels. We also consider that the issue of missing persons is a humanitarian matter, and relevant cases or concerns must be dealt with through the competent national, legal, and judicial frameworks. Sir, in the context of the Syrian Arab Republic and over the past 40 years, the Syrian people as a whole have been subjected to the illegal application of unilateral coercive measures that have violated and continue to massively violate all of their human rights. They've also caused great suffering and untold pains to millions, men, women, and children, as has been recorded, among other things, by the UN independent experts. The immediate, complete, and unconditional lifting of these cruel and illegal measures would thus be a first step in the right direction towards redressing the human rights situation in Syria, improve the humanitarian situation, and alleviate the prolonged suffering of the Syrian people. Despite all of these challenges and obstacles, we take note of the efforts of the government of the Syrian Arab Republic in this important field and in many areas in order to ensure the well-being of its people. We call for the continuation of these efforts and furthermore the need to ensure that they are nationally owned. And we also stress the central role of the Syrian government and its institutions in this regard. Sir, the member states of our group of friends are deeply concerned over the growing financial crisis that affects the operations contemplated within the UN regular budget and the risk that it poses for our organization's ability to uphold its responsibilities vis-a-vis those who desperately need its help and assistance. But some member states have decided to neglect the imminent dangers facing our peoples, including those who are in vulnerable situations around the world. And instead, they aim to impose an additional financial burden on all member states through the UN's regular budget, which reaches $3 million this year and approximately $13 million in 2025. The only goal here is to finance the so-called institution. We attach great importance to the role of the United Nations, and we are committed to ensuring adequate and sustainable financial resources so that it can fulfill its core mandates. At the same time, we stress that the organization's budgetary resources must be managed wisely and in the most effective manner possible, especially in light of the lack of funding and the ongoing liquidity crisis, particularly by directing the limited resources available to support humanitarian efforts, achieve sustainable development goals, and address the challenges facing developing countries, including the Syrian Arab Republic. Instead of wasting this on non-consensual and politicized mechanisms just on specific countries. In any case, we highlight the principled position in rejection of the establishment and cooperation with any mechanism or institution that does not serve the higher interests of the Syrian people, and that does not have the consent of the Syrian government, and that undermines the sacred principle of national ownership. This would only lead to more politicization, including through reports of bodies and mechanisms very distant from the humanitarian dimension who simply want to become a means of pressure against the Syrian government. In conclusion, our group of friends makes an appeal to end the politicization and weaponization of human rights for the purpose of promoting narrow and self-serving agendas, as well as any practice of double standards that would undermine human rights and that would undermine the harmonious environment and progress in this field. And we also highlight that the continuation of such approaches and practices is a flagrant violation of the principles and purposes of the UN Charter, which has committed us all to promote respect for and assistance for the realization of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all. Thank you very much, President.
I should like to thank the distinguished representative of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela